sports fans? Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
We go, ladies and gentlemen. I am so happy to be back here with all of you on a Monday. We got a lot to talk about. Super Bowl 60 is officially shaped. New England Patriots, Seattle Seahawks. Feels a lot like a Super Bowl 49 rematch, but different tales of the story. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show. Wherever and however you may be watching and listening, thanks for making us part of your day. We got a great guest lineup here for you tonight. Former MLB pitcher Brandon Finnegan, who played years with the Royals and the Reds, is going to be joining us here around the corner. I'm excited for this one. We got a lot to really discuss, and I'd like to get into these coaching hires that we've been seeing thus far. So I'm excited for all of it. So first of all, let's start from the very beginning and where we kind of start the show off from here. So first and foremost, I want to start with the first game that started. It was the AFC Championship game. And so congratulations to the New England Patriots. And I know a lot of people feel a certain type of way because the Patriots now are back in the Super Bowl post Tom Brady. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. I live here in Denver, and I went through the whole snow. I went through all that stuff, and it kind of sucked. I'm not going to lie. Inclement weather always seems to take a toll on some teams. But here's where was the problem. Denver felt short because they were without Bo Nix. And I understand every Broncos fan's frustration because of the way it ended and the way in which the game itself kind of went about on the offense. Offense completely changed, and it wasn't the same. Felt a lot like dump-offs, in my opinion. And, again, I look at it this way. I just see this as, the Broncos, they're better. Like, they're a better team. They felt like a better team all year long. But New England, here's what we got to stop doing. We got to stop making the term easiest schedule on the planet. Because you know who else had close to the quote-unquote easy schedule? The Niners. And the Niners got roundhoused against Seattle in the playoffs to get to the championship. Okay? At least they made it into the playoffs with every outcome that they fought against. Brock Purdy, here and there, injured. Mac Jones came in at times where he needed to show up. And then they lost George Kittle for the year, and Tungus had to end up stepping up. And the defense, when it came to Robert Saleh, like it was what it was. So the whole idea with New England, and New England had to prove it into this playoffs. In all three matchups, they have faced against top 5 quality defenses. They faced up against the Chargers, they faced up against Houston, and they faced up against Denver and beat all 3 of them. Now, I know the Charger game seemed ugly for Drake May, but it was Drake May's first playoff appearance. The other thing is that Mike Vrabel, and this is where if you're a Tennessee Titan fan, you got to be feeling gut-wrenched right now. Because the fact of the matter is, Tennessee let go of Mike Vrabel way too early in this whole entire debacle. And now you're watching him in the Super Bowl, and New England, they faced off against a lot of adversity. And so here's the thing. Their only losses that people kind of argued a bunch with was the loss against the Raiders in the first week. But it's week one. Everybody's usually, in week ones, it's always unpredictable. You never really know what side you're really going to get out of this. And it is what it is. But New England, they did not fold in spots in which they know they needed to be clutch. That was the bottom line. And my biggest takeaway with New England is New England was not a fluke. And by the way, they're 8-0 on the road, and now they're 9-0 on the road after beating Denver in the cold, inclement weather. Snow is in your face. And Drake May was able to fight off every part of it. And here's the other thing, too. When inclement weather gets in your face and you have to face off against it head on, you run the ball. You do whatever it takes to run the ball. And I watched Ramondre Stevenson several times, big body, brute force, run the football. And even I watched Drake May run the football a bunch of times in this cold. So again, I feel bad for the way in which Denver got dealt the cards, but still, these short pass plays, not even getting passing yards over 20 yards, like you were playing screen plays. You were kind of playing backwards. And I get it. You're limited at quarterback. But at the same time, you got to trust your run game. But the defense in New England, Christian Gonzalez was shut down. Every other secondary personnel out there, they were playing to the strength. And they played everything all throughout the entirety of the game. It may have looked ugly, but so did the weather. And that didn't matter to New England at all. Now they're back in the Super Bowl after all these years. And, because to me, it's interesting to see New England post Tom Brady. We've watched New England twice before Tom Brady and Bill Belichick's era. Remember when they ended up playing against the Chicago Bears and lost in the Super Bowl? And remember when they had to play the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl with Drew Bledsoe? Most of you don't even remember that. Now you're going to watch New England with Drake May, and you're going to watch them with Mike Vrabel, who is arguably one of the grittiest coaches I think we've seen all season long. So that so-called easy schedule, you could throw that away in the back burner because that doesn't seem to matter. They are in the Super Bowl. They've beaten top 5 defenses in all 3 routes from the wild card. Okay? And that's all you really need left to prove. So I'd like to see what they do against a physical team like Seattle. So now let's move to the NFC side. So congrats to the Seattle Seahawks, but it's not really necessarily about the totality of the Seahawks themselves. This was mostly about the journey road Sam Darnold has had to climb through all throughout his entire career. So Sam Darnold, you remember back in the 2018 draft class where Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Rosen, and Sam Darnold ended up getting drafted by the New York Jets. Now, here's what I love about this story. And yes, we're getting a rematch of a Super Bowl here between New England and Seattle, but it feels different because all of us are feeling a certain type of way, but we also are gaining respect for Sam Darnold. You're in the big dance now. You're in the Super Bowl. And you got to think, first round pick to New York in a wonky, weird organization that Woody Johnson and everybody else, they couldn't even adjust. They couldn't even build around Sam Darnold. O-line, forget about it. Wide receiving core, meh. And then defense, there was only a couple of good pieces here and there. I remember watching that Jets team with Jamal Adams. I remember watching, when they had Eric Decker as their wide receiver, Brandon Marshall, and their offensive line, forget it. It wasn't even giving him enough pass protection. And people kept thinking, is Sam Darnold really the problem? He's not really built like that. But little did people know a lot about Sam Darnold. Now, here's the other thing. He goes to Carolina in hopes for a fresh start, You get him out of New York, and I get it. New York market and media can be overwhelming. So you get him into Carolina, 4-0 in his first four starts. And then all of a sudden, Carolina just went down the drain because we know we got a meddling owner in David Tepper, but now we see Carolina building differently with Bryce Young. But back then, you had to bring in Baker Mayfield as a backup quarterback to fight for that quarterback one spot. And Sam Darnold, he won the job. Baker ended up having to go through that adversity to then go to the Rams and now be the starting quarterback and earn his paycheck with Tampa. Sam Darnold, when you look at his draft stock, and when you look at the scouting reports, big body, strong arm, throws the football downfield. Can he be reckless at times? Yes, he can. Is there times where it feels like he kind of gets overwhelmed in himself, that he can't even make the right plays or even make the right reads? Yes. But here's what really turned around. Leaving Carolina to then go and back up at San Francisco. This is why offensive coaches really should get the nod for things like this, especially certain ones, because Kyle Shanahan, will open up the playbook really deep. And it helps out with a lot of these young quarterbacks like Sam Darnold. So he comes in, learns a lot of the playbook, learns a lot of like these different schemes and X's and O's. Then he goes and takes a prove-it deal in Minnesota, which Minnesota, here's the problem. I understand with where their direction was going with J.J. McCarthy. I do. I really, really do, because a lot of organizations do this. But remember, don't distract yourself from the idea that 65% of the league whiff on franchise quarterbacks. That's the reality. It is what it is. So Minnesota lost J.J. McCarthy 1 year with a torn ACL. Then Sam now plays his arse off. They go 14-3 with a Brian Flores defense and Kevin O'Connell around a Sean McVay tree, understanding the offense, knowing how to build it, and knows exactly what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are. So Sam goes into his playoff game, loses, and he learns a lot from it. But now this is where it also becomes the pivoting point, is he goes to Seattle for a contract, and they gave him a very good and reasonable contract all in itself. And once he got there, now look at where they are today in the Super Bowl. Because to me, in my opinion, my biggest respect for Sam Darnold, more than anything else, was his ability to believe in himself and lead the Seahawks to the championship, and now going to its fourth appearance in the Super Bowl in franchise history. And the Pacific Northwest, they love their team. Okay, you're starting to see a slow growth build with the Seattle Kraken in hockey. We saw with what, the Seattle Supersonics were before they left for the Thunder. And there's already conversations about potentially bringing them back. The Seattle Mariners, they got to the ALCS. It would have been nicer to see them in the World Series. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But today, Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl, I am so happy and I'm excited because this team with Mike McDonald, they're physical, they run the football, they got a great defense. And by the way, that secondary, I will say this, an exciting game because a few reasons. Number one is Seattle dodged a bullet because I thought Tariq Woolen in that costly penalty, when you're over there mocking the other team, to me as a coach, I ain't cutting that. But luckily they dodged a bullet because after they converted into points for the Rams, that was terrible. But Sam did not put his head down and feel like we ain't going to make this. He kept on driving. He kept on playing his game. and got points on the board. And the defense and everybody else, especially the youngsters, Nick Emenwari, Devon Witherspoon, everybody all contributed. They got after Matt Stafford several times, but it was great quarterback play on both ends. But Seattle, they were tough, they were physical, they were the better team. And Sam, you got to give credit where credit is due, because to be bounced around all around the league to finally found a home, just like Baker Mayfield going into Tampa. He found a home, they pay him well, and there's confidence in the building now. So this Super Bowl, it's a rematch, but it feels so different. It's a different tale, but I think Seattle, I mean, you're going to get the tough physical team, but then you got New England with the tough, gritty coach. So that's what I'm excited about more than anything. But again, I pay my respects. I think Sam Darnold really does deserve a lot of respect and credit for this, for the season he's gone through and an entire career. It's immaculate. All right, good stuff. Brandon Finnegan around the corner. I'm excited about this one because this is a great year in sports. We got the World Cup around the corner, World Baseball Classic, the Pitchers Catchers Report coming up in February, which I'm really excited about. But I really would love to talk more about what's happening in the state of Major League Baseball, because everybody's outraged with this whole thing. So we got him coming up around the corner, guys. Do not miss it. All righty, folks. Well, I will tell you what. Starting out the new year, and I'm starting it out right, because you're looking at a great special announcement. So you're looking at now the newly father into the household with our newest little one. And to me, to keeping me up and on my toes, I got to make sure I keep my health in check. I got to make sure my dietary is good, because he's going to be keeping me on my toes every single day for many, many years until he is ready to be the grown adult. But here's the thing. I have a sweet tooth, and it's hard for most of us. We love cookies. We love ice cream. We love all of that stuff. But I came across a revolutionary dessert, which is, number one, no shame. Number two, super good and low on sugar. Deutsch Food Company. Okay, they got snacking cookie dough. Natural ingredients, delicious in multitude of flavors that you choose from when you go online to deutschsnackingfoods.com. Also, take a look at the link on our description. They got many of them, and they're so delicious. Packed with all natural ingredients, including flax seeds and so much more. So you don't have to necessarily give up your dessert, and neither do you got to eat your dessert with shame of, man, I'm going to feel a little bigger and I'm going to have to burn this off. This is good. It's packed with protein, less sugar, less calories, really, really good. Pick up a tub for yourself. You could either bake it in your oven, or you could just take a spoon and scoop it right up there from the tub. Check out Deutsch Snacking Foods today to start your year off right in the best direction with your sweet tooth, and best snacking foods you'll ever try. Deutsch Snacking Foods.
Looking for a show with the best takes and opinions? Want a show with the best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
We got plenty of NFL talk around the corner, and also Pitchers and Catchers Report is around the corner. I'm excited for the up-and-coming Major League Baseball season. Back-to-back defending champion LA Dodgers. What is the season going to give us here? And so joining us, who knows a thing or two, being in the World Series, in the big bright lights, playing for the Kansas City Royals and the Cincinnati Reds, former MLB pitcher Brandon Finnegan joins us here on the I want to start off with this, Brandon, because you've been used to this. So next month, pitchers catchers report. It's the best time of year. Take me back into that experience when you just circle up the date like every baseball player does when you start off the season. How good does that got to feel of like it's a new season, it's a fresh new start, new me, we're ready to play. What's that kind of feeling like when you get pitchers and catchers report?
Oh man, it's like the first day of school feeling, back when you were a kid, you got your shoes and your outfit all lined up, ready for the first day of school. That's the only way I can explain it. Something I enjoyed every year was getting to leave to go to spring training and get ready for another season, and get to play a sport that you dream about playing. And it was just, I miss it, of course, obviously, and the golf in Arizona is pretty impeccable, so it was great.
Oh, there you go. Yep, the Cactus Leagues, man. I mean, it's perfect weather, springtime.
Oh
I
yeah.
love every bit of it. I will tell you though, because lots of shifting moves in Major League Baseball. So I want to start with this because so here's my big takeaway. I've had baseball in my blood for a very long time. Been around a baseball family, and we've loved it we've watched it ever since. Every World Series, every game. So my big thing is so everyone is asking how in the world the Dodgers continue to get away with a lot of this payroll and contract talk. And a lot of people are like, throw in a salary cap. This is outrageous. Why is it they're stacking and loading? And I'm like, whoa, time out. First of all, when I looked at that contract and I broke through everything, I'm like, half the league could have thrown out this contract to Kyle Tucker. And it just so happened he chose the stable organization,
Yep.
more motivated for championships. And
Yep.
so here's my thought and something to break down as well, too, for all of our audiences. When you look at this, my big deal is if you instill a salary cap, and I live here in Denver, Colorado, and we all know what the Montforts in Colorado are all about. But my big thing is they figured out how to manipulate the deferred comp deal. I literally just asked this from another former Major League player, Logan Morrison. And my big thing is anybody could have done this deal, but if you're putting in a salary cap and you're harping about that, my big fear is you're going to benefit more of the owners because they're not even going to want to spend that money. And it's like it's going to be closed book.
Yep.
When you look at this in your perspective and in your opinion, how can people kind of come around to the idea, especially with all the other 29 clubs that could have easily made this deal so we don't have the fitting outrage that every MLB fan is kind of going through because the Dodgers were able to do this?
Yeah, I mean, dude, you're right. Like when you think about it, I get people getting upset that the Dodgers are just absolutely stacking the house with all these just studs. But like you said, 29 other teams had a chance to do this, and them refusing to do it, that's on them, right? And the whole salary cap thing, I think they've gone too far down this road without a salary cap to where like there's just no coming back. I know the CBA is up at the end of the season, but I just don't see, Ken Rosenthal thinks there's going to be like a 98% chance of a lockout or something like that. I just don't see the owners getting what they want, and that's the salary cap. That's the getting rid of the deferred money. Um, yeah, you can't get mad at the Dodgers. They figured out something that they can do, and it works. And there's a reason that they contend every season. It's not just the fact that they have the money; it's the fact that they something within the organization is working with every single stud that they pick up, and not studs, right? Like, I mean, they develop players like crazy. It's not just like them signing people. I mean, they had Corey Seager, they had Jock, they had all these studs back in the like when I was playing that, you know, were unbelievable. There's a reason they've been so good for so long. So fans can say what they want to say. Teams can cry all they want. It's at the end of the day, it's on the owners. If they could have gone, like you said, they could have gone, get off their wallets and done this deal in 2 seconds, just like the Dodgers did. But they're stingy with their money. Players want to be paid. Owners don't want to pay them. That's just what it comes down to. So you can't get mad at a team that wants a player and finds a deal that works for both of them.
Well, what's funny is it makes me laugh because they focus so heavily because the Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions that they forget. Did anybody pay attention to see what Toronto threw at him? $350 million? Like
Yeah.
they could have made that. But
Oh.
but at the end of the day, it's ultimately the player's choice itself. They got the agent. They look at all the options on the cards, and they're like, no, I'm going to choose this one. It wasn't particularly just because of the money. It was more of they feel more motivated. And everywhere else I look around in the league, I'm like, and this was more pertaining to Washington, Pittsburgh, a lot of these other organizations that could be able to be on the same plateau if they were able to figure this out. But here's what's interesting. And before the Dodgers won back-to-back World Series, in 20 years, isn't it crazy that we only had 6 teams in 20 years that were number 1 in Major League Baseball, like for the longest time, and the rest of them were like top 15, top 20 in ranks?
It's wild.
So yeah, and what's funny is you were actually kind of a part of that team with Kansas City in 2014. They were like, people didn't really see a whole lot of the team, but with trust, with grit, and in momentum. I mean, you guys, you went into a wild card with the greatest swing from Salvador Perez to then go into the World Series. Like, please take me back to that, because I think people forget, like, that can happen with any team when you're in the postseason. So
100%.
What was that like?
100%. Like you said, I mean, it can happen with any team, just like it happened with Tampa Bay back in 2020. Don't get me wrong, they had a bunch of good players, but none of them were getting paid the money that they're obviously getting paid today. Just like in 2014 and 15 with the Royals. People always said that like we didn't have that many good players, but if you think about it, at some point in their career, we had an all-star at every single position. And we just had an absolutely insane bullpen and a good starting staff as well. I mean, back then James Shields was great. Vargas was great. Jeremy Guthrie was great. So like we actually had a team just full of studs. They all loved each other. And at the end of the day, like, you can spend all the money in the world on all these players, but if they're not clicking in the clubhouse, then they're not going to go out there and play that well. There's something about a good clubhouse that can change everything, regardless of the money that's in there, regardless of the caliber of players that are in there. I mean, at that point, we didn't have a ton of all-stars on the team. I think it was just Salvi and Gordo at the time, but you just have all these guys that are just good people that, love playing the game and love being around each other. And that just completely changes everything. I mean, that 2014 run was, the most fun I ever had in baseball, obviously. But I didn't come up with anybody. There wasn't a group of guys that I came up with. That whole team was like, they came up through the minor league system together and played in the big leagues together. And essentially that was the team I came up with. So that's why I was so, I guess called butthurt when I got traded, because those are the guys that I felt like were my brothers, going through, and I was only spent like 4 months with them, obviously. But, being around a group of guys like that, knows how to win, loves being in the clubhouse together, loves competing together. It's just so hard to honestly, recreate, especially when you're going to a team that, wasn't winning, hadn't won in a while, and just, grinding out tough games and losing. It's just a completely different atmosphere. And I had a blast in Cincinnati, don't get me wrong, but just going from the World Series, obviously, to, losing 100 games a season or close to it, it was just a tough, turnaround.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I will tell you, like, as a baseball fanatic myself, if people ask me, what was your favorite World Series, Jake? I said that 2014 World Series was the best I ever watched, because the thing what people don't realize is every time when you're in a gritty game, and much like we talk about with the Super Bowl in the NFL, my biggest takeaway is what I love is they were not fixated on home runs, because they had the guys to do it, but that was not their plan. Their plan was get on base any way you could, whether it's a walk, whether it was a little base knock and pitching. Your guys' relief roles was immaculate. I mean,
It was, dude, it was
from Kelvin
wild,
Herrera and Wade Davis, and then
dude.
all the way to Greg Holland. I was like, these guys know how to play it because they're pitching inside, outside. They're forcing you to now have to hit off of me in order to score a run. And that was where I
Exactly.
was like, that was baseball.
Exactly. Like there were no free bases. You know, that was one thing. They called it the three-headed monster, but like when you saw Kelvin warming up, you know, you knew that you were in for it because guess what was coming after that? Wade Davis, and then another guy named Greg Holland. You know, all three all-stars, all three could run up to 100. I mean, Wade Davis's cutter was like I think the cutter he threw in the World Series that we won in 15 was 95 to end the game. He had an 86-mile-an-hour curveball. They had Greg Holland before he got hurt. You know, I mean, all these studs. You know, just the and just a good group of guys. You know, I can't say enough good things about those people. And but it was just so fun. You're right. Like we weren't built off of homers. We were built off of grind out of bats, get on base any way you can. And then guess what? We got Lorenzo Cain, Gerard Dyson, Terrence Gore, and Alex Gore, and you got all these guys that can actually like Alcides Escobar. I mean, these dudes can just flat out run to where like, okay, I mean, that's how we kind of started our comeback in that wild card game, right? Like you got like obviously the Hall of Famer John Lester on the mound, and he had trouble picking off. So like once we got one of our speed guys on, you knew you were in trouble, right? Because you had to do a different type of holding the runner on, and then all of a sudden like we're in scoring position, and then a little single knocks in a run, and guess what? It goes from 7-2 to 7-7 in a span of I think 1 or 2 innings, and it's just it was wild, man. It was it was just a blast, and I wish I could go back and relive that, but it was a blast.
There's a couple questions here around the corner. So my big thing is, I look at Kansas City now, and I mean they finished up third in the AL Central, and I love Bobby Witt Jr. Absolutely love the build of what they have, but I feel like they could use a little more. Usually, a lot of teams because it's interesting because the Centrals, both the AL and the NL, it's like I don't know what team I'm going to get that's going to surprise
Exactly.
me. And so when I look at the Royals, there's a lot of things that are kind of going on. We're talking about what's going to happen with the state of the Royals because now we got the Chiefs going to Kansas City, Kansas. And I mean, look, I love Kauffman Stadium. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful ballpark. But like I look at the Royals and it's like they always are gritty. They, even if they're middle of the pack. But I could see they could make a case to where they can make the wild card spot. If in fact, a couple months of momentum that gets them up there. When you're previewing this team, what are some of the things you looked out for them that could get them in this position to get into the wild card? Because I think they have the right guys, and I feel like they could add a little bit more, whether it's going into the trade deadline, maybe adding in an extra bat or maybe a pitcher at some point to really get them the extra step.
Man, it's actually crazy. While you're sitting there asking me this, I was thinking about how similar these two teams, like this team is compared to like our 2014, 2015 team. Obviously Salvy's still behind the dish. You got Bobby Witt at short, who you could put an argument up that he's he's the best player in MLB all around, and just a phenomenal dude. And then you got Vinny, who's coming into his own at first. You got the third baseman who they just signed to a deal. Like they got studs on their team, and that a lot of those kids, all those guys came through their own system, and that's kind of unheard of nowadays, especially with all the money that's just getting thrown around between these teams. I think that they need one big bat and then a few. I wouldn't say a few, a couple arms. They are not far off from being, winning their division and making a run in the playoffs. Because that team is when we were up there a couple years ago for the 10-year reunion, I got to watch them play, and man, they are a gritty team, and it reminded me a lot of the 2024 team. It's just a bunch of guys that like to go out there and play together, and at the end of the day, that's what you need the most. Because they're going to give you all they got 24/7, and that's what you want. Like that's going to be talent regardless, you know. And I love those guys. You know, I love the Royals. I had a blast when I played there. I just think that, and they're a lot like the Reds too. They got so much talent on this team. They're just missing something, right? That's like one or two key factors in the team that could really turn them into a juggernaut. And I think I think they need a stick and then one or two arms that could just really put them over that threshold, and they'll take off.
Yeah, I agree. And usually they're always like the surprise teams that I know that can make the jump to really shake it up. Because I mean, I'm seeing the build of Detroit. I'm seeing, Cleveland, do what they do.
Oh yeah,
It's like sometimes it's like they're so wonky in the first couple months,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden the pitching gets better, the hitting gets better.
Yeah,
So
you're like,
it's
what happened?
right. So I love what 2026 has in store, because not only are we getting a Super Bowl 49 rematch of the Patriots Seahawks, but we got the World Cup around the corner.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then what's also fun, the World Baseball Classic. I love watching, because again, even with the Olympics, my big thing is like baseball, we find talents globally.
Mhm.
And I think when you look at, the NBA, I mean, they're having an entire international cesspool of like Nikola Jokic and Giannis and, Victor Wembanyama. The basketball has hit the entire turnaround international. But then when I look at baseball, it's so classic because it's a historical sport
Oh
that
yeah.
you get a lot of these players from international countries, Puerto Rico, Dominican, even in Japan. For the United States team, I mean, to me, I loved watching it when we won the gold medal in 2017. We were a
Mhm.
stacked, loaded roster, and we were just like, we're going to fight anybody.
Yep.
But now, after watching what happened in the last bout, where Shohei Ohtani's unbelievable, this year's going to be kind of different, because I kind of feel Mexico might be a little bit more pain in the necks for some teams going into the tournament. But I mean, I'm getting Dominican, where Albert Pujols and the rest of them, they're going to be coaching up and managing. But for our United States men's team, this is going to be one where I feel we got a lot of really good studs and stars, but it's ultimately going to be fighting in those crucial trench spots where they really have to be smart up on pitching locations and spots.
Oh yeah.
And getting up and on base. How do you see this World Baseball Classic really kind of coming around? Because I have a good feeling our boys are going to do very well this year.
I think they're going to kill it. Losing to Japan and Shohei Ohtani, that's tough, right? I mean, he's the best player in baseball. People will make an argument he'll be the best player ever. Especially Trout being the last out. I just think there's going to be such a chip on their shoulder. They got some stuff. Paul Skeens, he's unbelievable. The guy, I mean, he makes baseball look like a joke. Schwarber, he's been killing it again. He always hits bombs, but he just I think he had a career year average wise. And that dude, I love that guy. I got to play with him on Team USA in college. He's just a clown. They got so many good players. That's the thing. All these other, and I'm not saying to knock the last team, but all these other countries, they put the best of the best out there. Their best players that they have are going to play. We didn't have all of our best arms the last time we played. Like DeGrom was, I think DeGrom's one of the best pitchers in baseball always when he's healthy. He didn't play. Scherzer didn't play last time either. And I mean, yeah, you can say age, whatever. When that dude gets on the mound, there's something different about the game. I just think they're going to go out there with everything that they got, every big bat, every big arm, every just speed master that they got, and they're just going to take it to every single team. Don't get me wrong, they're going to hit their speed bumps because all these other countries obviously have gotten a lot better as well. But they're not going to, I don't think they're going to take anything for granted regardless of who they play. That's the thing. You lose something like this. My only way to be able to explain what they're probably feeling is like the 2014-15 Royals lost in Game 7 to the Giants. They came back to next spring training with the biggest chip on their shoulder, and they went out and they just ran through everyone. and then win the World Series. That's the only way I can explain something like this. That's what these guys have to have on their shoulder. They have to have this big chip that they know that they, what happened last time. They can't go out there and take any game for granted because they can turn around and get spanked. I mean, it's baseball. It's not about who the best player is. It's always who plays the best, and that's just how it is. You can go out there any given time, strike out 4 times, or go out the next game, hit 4 homers. Baseball's a mean sport, so I don't think they're going to take any of this for granted. I think they're going to come out there and they're going to get after it.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited about this roster. I really am excited for just what's going to happen with like just the entire tournament. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It always is. The viewerships always seem to go up when we have these kinds of tournaments. I mean, we watch, we watch the Four Nations with NHL. And that was super exciting. And so, to see this to lead into the season, I mean, it's exciting. So what a great year it's going to be in sports. I'm excited for this one in the Major League Baseball season. We'll see. We'll see how it shapes up.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Interesting.
The competition will be rising up, so can't wait for it. Brandon, appreciate you for coming on by, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Take care of yourself. Enjoy it, and we'll see what we get. World Baseball Classic, Major League Baseball season, anything can happen, so let's see what happens.
Definitely, man. Congrats on the new baby, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Have a good one.
You too. Yeah. This is what I keep saying, and I'm not making this up, is when you talk about salary cap and you talk about the outrageousness that the LA Dodgers are doing, it's like timeout. All these other half the league could have honestly have given Kyle Tucker that contract. By the way, you watched Bo Bichette literally bypass a contract to then go and play with the Mets. I mean, ultimately, it all comes down to your organization, your ownership. And if one ain't really working better than the other, then something has to give. Because at this point, a lot of these, this nonsense, excuses, all this stuff, I mean, it gets ridiculous. So, again, I think because again, for 20 years, there had only been 6 teams that had won the World Series that were number one in all of baseball. It's 20 years. This was before the Dodgers with their back-to-back World Series championships. And so you have to think about that. Let that sink in your head. You're going to have a stacked team. You're going to have a stacked roster. But ultimately, it's winning the big dance. That's really all it comes down to. So if you're going to complain about it and you're going to make a fuss about it, I mean, you could build throughout the farm system, but go and get aggressive and spend the money. Because the minute you have the salary cap, that's where the lockout will happen. Okay? I don't want the salary cap. In my opinion, I want my owner to spend more money. So that's exactly how I feel up on that. Let's get to the news.
And now, here we go. Hey everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
Lots of storylines that have been going on here in the NFL. And of course, one of the big sources, because the Buffalo Bills, who have just recently fired Sean McDermott, still in the coaching carousel, they looked at former NFL quarterback Phillip Rivers to be a part of their coaching carousel and now has withdrawn his name from the coaching hire, from the drawing list with the Bills. Rivers, who has never coached at the collegiate or pro level, was interviewed on Friday in Florida, but 3 days later, he pulled his name from the contention of the job opening. So here's the thing. I still believe, though, this should be a conversation because, again, we're catching up. I had to take a week off from the most exciting time of my life. But here's the thing. You fire Sean McDermott, and I've told everybody this, he's the modern-day Marty Schottenheimer for a few reasons, is because defensively, there are times where they could get defensive and pull the reins. And so sometimes you really have to be aggressive up and at it. But I do feel there's a part in it where I held Josh Allen accountable for the gameplay in which he played last time against Denver. So to me, there's only one name that, like I said, you cannot ignore, and that's Brian Dable. You really cannot ignore him potentially taking the head coaching job to come back to Buffalo, because he was Josh Allen's successor. He was somebody that spoke the similar language. He spoke exactly the X's and O's. And again, if you're going to get an offensive-minded coach, you need to have a right-hand man in fixing up this defense, because this defense is only going to get older from here. I mean, you lost Maxwell, the corner, due to injury, and he'll be back this upcoming season. So you really got to double down, and you really got to end up building this up, because the offensive line could use a little bit of adjustments. You got to go out there and get aggressive at wide receiver, because Brandon Beane, I know a lot of people are not really fond with him, but sometimes, you know, these NFL GMs, they're going to make moves, which will be interesting. So again, I think it's kind of interesting how that is. But by the way, the only source that I'm hearing thus far is the offensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Grant Adinsky. He withdrew his name from the Cleveland Browns job to now potentially pursuing the Bills job. So if they get him, that's actually a pretty good hire. You need to get an offensive-minded coach in here. Just recently, the LA Chargers made a lot of moves, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the latest news so far is that the Chargers have extended the contract of defensive tackle Teair Tart with 3-year, $37.5 million with $20 million guaranteed. So Teair Tart, who helped out after losing Poona Ford in free agency last season, really stepped himself up in a big way, and also pairing him up with a really good rookie in Jamari Caldwell and Sean Hand. The Chargers had a really good run-stopping defensive line, and with Teair Tart and what he has contributed in a lot of key factors, they want him to be a Charger for quite a long time. So the 3-year extension contract is finalized and signed. The Chargers keep their key defensive tackle. So to me, I think they're definitely going to look at linebacker as a question mark. They're probably going to look at maybe a secondary piece, not too big name, but somebody that's going to end up really contributing in the best way. But the Chargers defensive line has definitely shaped up a lot, because they were terrible against the run. They couldn't even stop the run at all. Now, it is going to be a different look without Jesse Minter now that he's in Baltimore, and we'll get to all of that. But really happy for Teair Tart. Contract extension, really good move. All right, so final news story coming up around the corner. The Bucks right now have no timetable as far as Giannis's return to the Milwaukee Bucks. After suffering a calf strain that he had, and it was predicted he would be out 4 to 6 weeks. Two-time MVP also said that the Bucks 102-100 loss to Denver on Friday, that an MRI would determine he had a calf or soleus strain in his right leg, and Bucks coach Doc Rivers confirmed the strain diagnosis on Monday, but didn't speculate on when Giannis would come back. So the Bucks right now, I mean, this is kind of an interesting situation for them. And we've been saying this even from the beginning, because after they won the NBA championship, they've kind of been questionable for quite a while. They're 18-26 right now, and they're outside the spots of the play-in tournament between the Heat, the Magic, the Bulls, and the Hawks. So right now, they lose their star player. I don't know where, in fact, you're going to draw the line here when it comes to Giannis. So the Bucks are kind of in a jammed spot as of right now, but we'll see what happens in the going weeks and how Giannis is going to fill up, because, again, Giannis is the key in their organization. And the minute that he's gone, and we don't know if he's going to end up getting traded, but the minute he's gone, it's going to be no more for Milwaukee. All right, that's going to do it here for the news.
And now, here we go. Hey, everyone, it's story time. This is the Hot Press.
So as I was gone and, having the best time of my life, I had arguably the best time of my life. Myself and my wife, we absolutely love and appreciate everybody's supports throughout the time. As my son was officially born last week, really, really loved every bit of it and soaking it in. So as I was gone, and it was a nice week off, honestly. Took me time to really kind of gather up my thoughts, see exactly what I was thinking with these coaching hires. So first of all, I'm going to go through pretty quickly. So first of all, let's start with the Giants. John Harbaugh going to New York was arguably the best hire they could do in a long time. Because since Tom Coughlin left, they had 4 other coaches who clearly did not end up filling the bill. And the Giants now have a culture coach in John Harbaugh. 18 years in Baltimore, 1 Super Bowl championship. But what's been great about it is, John Harbaugh is going to bring over his guys. Todd Monken, he already brought over. They did say when it came to Joe Shane, I mean, he's right now on the targeting list because who knows what's going to happen here. But I've said it perfectly like this. John Harbaugh is going to structurize a broken culture, which needs to be shaped up in New York. I mean, you're in the Big Apple. The Jets are a mess. Every other New York team, not the Knicks. And, the Rangers right now are a little bit of a mess. I'm kind of disappointed in that. The Islanders are kind of here and there. The Yankees, they got to do as far as they could in the postseason. And then you got the Mets, they let go of Pete Alonso. So they need an uplifting moment. And I feel like this is the perfect opportunity because, one, you still have a running quarterback in Jackson Dart, who's also accurate in his passing. You also have Cam Scottaboo that can run the football very, very well. And one of my big things is when you look at this with the Giants, they got to get rid of one of these defensive pieces up front because they need to fix up the offensive line. It got better, but I would like to see it go a little further, especially when it comes to the run block, because the pass block improved, but the run block's got to get better. And I feel like with Evan Neal, they've already moved on with this. I think the Giants, with this hire, they will win more games. And they're going to shake up the NFC East because the Commanders, they really got to get their offense coordinator right. And with Jaden Daniels, my hope is he bulks up, gets a little bigger, it's stronger. He's much more he's got more endurance, and he'll be throughout the entirety of the season. The Cowboys, let's just see what happens up from there. They had a really good offense all season long, but the defense had a little bit of some shakeups, but they're going to be different. But this is up to Jerry Jones and how he's going to deal with the picks. And then there's Philadelphia, where emotionally motivated, and then, you lose up and into a game against San Francisco, and they have a great defense. They do not want to take that up for granted. So the Giants, I rank this as A- higher because I feel like they needed a culture creator, and that's exactly with who John Harbaugh is. They tried this with Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge. They tried it with a lot of different coaches, and it didn't work in New York. And especially if you're not winning in New York, you are going to be bypassed. Nobody's going to talk well about you. I have heard this from every New York media radio show. They do not. They're brutal. You're losing, they're going to rip you apart. So I think this was the best idea. Now, another coaching hire, Mike McCarthy to Pittsburgh. What is this? To me personally, Pittsburgh, they have gone through coaches very short of time than every other organization in the NFL. Because, one, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin, 3 coaches in the span of years since 1969. I mean, to me, my big thing is that if you're going to go with Mike McCarthy, I understand you want a stabilizer somewhere in this, But you already have gotten Aaron Rodgers, who's not going to be coming back into the building because he's going to go pro bono for a couple more months, probably up in Malibu Beach, which is fine. You go right off into the sunset at 42 years old. But he's not going to want to come back with Mike McCarthy in here. And then at the same time, you have so much defense. You paid so much money and you're not even going to shed it. And I've told everybody this from the season when it started. If only if you traded away TJ Watt and got multitude of picks, you could have drafted Abdul Carter and not pay him for about a span of 3 to 5 years, because he's going to want a contract after the third, close to the fourth year. But he's young, he's strong, has miles in the tank. He could easily end up fitting in with an already built defensive front. And TJ Watt, you could have shipped him off to somebody like Tennessee or any other team that would have, or the Cardinals, who could have honestly ate up that contract. So, but the Steelers, they're a proud organization. They kind of didn't really think this through all that much. But I know they need to be stabilized at offense. And offense is just wonky. I know everybody wants to see Will Howard, but let me be honest with you. I watched Will Howard up in Kansas State, completely different quarterback. I wished I would have seen Will Howard when he had Bill O'Brien as an offensive coordinator before going to Boston College. Then I think he would have been a top 5 Heisman finalist, because Bill O'Brien, he knows how to speak to quarterbacks. He knows exactly how to shape them, their strengths and weaknesses. But you had Chip Kelly, pro football, running the football. That's really what you got. So Mike McCarthy, it should be interesting. I kind of give this a C, probably a C minus, because I'm not thrilled. I don't really know what this is, truthfully. If they really go through with it, I'm not really a fan, but we'll see. Here's 2 more coaching hires I really do like. So here's one, and I called this at the beginning of the last couple months. To me, Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta makes too much sense, because Kevin Stefanski, let me be honest, 2-time coach of the year, went through arguably a lot of dysfunction in Cleveland with the Deshaun Watson deal and, Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Haslam. I think he was just more I understand the Shedeur Sanders stories. I really do. But I also do feel like he was kind of primed to be the scapegoat out of Cleveland. And Cleveland really doesn't do so much of business well. We all know that. Look at how many people have withdrawn their names out of Cleveland because nobody wants to be there. Nobody even wants to be there with the Raiders. And right now, the Bills right now, there doesn't seem to be any big time interest other than the fact of you got to do it right with getting Brian Table. But Kevin Stefanski to Atlanta feels so much, it feels perfect, because now I got the best owner who's not a meddler, and they're going to get a new GM. I think with Kevin Stefanski, you're going to have the quarterback as long as he stays healthy. Because with Michael Penix, he needed somebody that could help to shape up the X's and O's spots, and not to mention his stature build. Because one, yes, he's already gone through 2 ACL tears. And the other thing is, to me, Zach Robinson was not even strong of a primed offensive coordinator for a former quarterback. I couldn't even believe it. And I get it with Raheem Morris. It was crazy. But to me, Kevin Stefanski, offensive-minded, likes a quarterback of Michael Penix's stature, where he's strong in the pocket, has very good pocket awareness, and all he needs is just the structurization. Needs confidence. Now, again, nobody wants to deal with that Kirk Cousins contract, and I get all that. But to me, anything can happen at the end of the day. Now, as long as, and he's kept Jeff Ulbrich as the defensive coordinator, I like that, because that tells me Jeff Ulbrich knows this pass rush, knows exactly how to shape the secondaries, and I think Atlanta would get better at that. Finally, they won't strain my wallet every time when I'm talking about wagers. They won't stress my wallet anymore. So I like the hire. I like the move. I think they really should come to grips in terms with Kyle Pitts, but I do think they need to make some adjustments up from here because they are going to lose a couple guys. But I think if they upgrade, start out small because I know they don't really have much in cap space, but I think Atlanta will be fine. All right. Another one now before we end the show. Jesse Minter to Baltimore. Here's the thing. There's already familiarity in the Baltimore system when you think of John Harbaugh, the Harbaugh brothers, Michigan Pipeline, Mike McDonald, and Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter had arguably the best defenses in 2 years. Knows exactly how to shape them up. 4-3 defenses, 4-2-5, and 3-3-5s as well. He was very aggressive when it came to get the pass rush and containment and play solid man-to-man and coverages in the secondary. And what's funny is he's already now has his pivotal role player in Kyle Hamilton now in Baltimore, just like how he did with Derwin James in the 2 years he's been there with the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh. And Jim spoke very highly of Jesse Minter. So I know people are skeptical about this because he's young and we don't know what the confidence level is going to be like on the offensive side of the ball with Lamar Jackson. But in my opinion, my big thing is you got to have somebody that can be able to turn up Lamar Jackson on both the ground and the air. Because we know Todd Monken, the whole point of moving on for Greg Roman was, number one, he was stubborn and couldn't even turn over the pages to help out with offense. That's why the offenses were terrible in the playoffs. He was just stubborn. He couldn't even turn over the playbook. But he could run the football. Todd Monken, what helped out with Lamar Jackson's build, throws the ball more accurately, definitely airs it out a little bit more. But the only thing is that you got to fix up some of these offensive weapons. And we know we heard the latest on Rashad Bateman. So there are some question marks there. But I think they can add a better and add up a little bit more. So, and with Jesse Minter, he saw the grittiness of many people in the building. John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, and Mike McDonald, who's now in the Super Bowl with Seattle. Do I think Baltimore has a recreation of what Seattle is currently doing? Maybe. But it's ultimately going to depend on because the defense was atrocious and they needed a lot of help. Injuries wasn't the best. It wasn't the best ideal ideal thing. It happens. It's inevitable. But they certainly do want to fix up a lot of different defensive schemes. Roquan Smith, several others. They got to fix it all up. But I also do think they're going to run the football efficiently well because that's what you have Derrick Henry for. And Baltimore fans were so pissed off because why did we pay Derrick Henry for this much if he's not going to be utilized the way that he was signed to be? I get the frustration. And I think Jesse Minter, coming into this organization who's very used to this and very close with multitudes of people in this building, it makes a lot of sense. And I think he's going to get them into better field position. And I think it'll help turn things around for Baltimore after watching Pittsburgh literally squeeze their way out to winning the North. It was not a good year for the AFC North at all. So that's why they got to tune things up a bit. So I like it. There are a couple hires that I thought were interesting. I mean, Robert Saleh to Tennessee. Tennessee had to make that up because look at Mike Vrabel, who's in the Super Bowl right now. They knew they messed up. So they got to fix that up. But Jeff Hafley to Miami, I don't know. I don't know about that hire. I have to see it to believe it, in my opinion. If they're gritty, just like how they were up in Green Bay before Micah Parsons went down, then maybe there's a change. But I think those couple hires, John Harbaugh was really good. Kevin Stefanski, I like. Jesse Minter to Baltimore was really good. I like a little bit of the Robert Saleh move to Tennessee. And there's still the Raiders, the Bills, and the Browns that are still head coachless right now. Should be interesting. All righty, folks. That's going to do it here for me. Really appreciate everybody for stopping on by. Shout out to Brandon Finnegan, former Kansas City Royal and Cincinnati Reds relief pitcher. Absolutely loved his time here, giving his thoughts on Major League Baseball. Tune in Wednesday because we got a stacked interview lineup. We've got Jay Jackson, former MLB pitcher. We've got Eric Gordon Sr. of the E3 Basketball Academy, father to Eric Gordon Jr. playing basketball. We're going to talk a lot about his academy and also with his son playing ball, and former NFL defensive tackle who knows a lot about ferocious defensive play. Pat Williams is going to be joining us here up and onto the program. Tune in Wednesday. You don't want to miss it here on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. See you guys later.